planet?
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock.
Judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
Is the planet stupid?
No. It's the planet, stupid.
It is the time to talk about the environment, something we should all care about. Jim Avila, please join me in welcoming Belinda Waymouth to the show.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Well, I'm super well, but this story from Cal Matters that came out yesterday, Kim, it's horrible. So egregious and awful that California is doing this.
Well, here we are, Belinda, leading the way.
Yeah.
We're like the stewards of the environment. We're the champions. We're the state that's going to have, only new car sales be electric by 2035. We're slapping all the solar panels on our homes. We have all these regulations and we're supposed to be the leaders. And it turns out maybe we're not really, we're with one hand the leader and with the other hand, shoving the toxic waste but right behind us. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a pretty dirty secret. I mean, pun totally intended. The fact that we're sending the worst of our toxic waste, out of state. We've only got 2 facilities that, these sort of specialized facilities to deal with it here. And, Cal Matters did this 4-month investigation into, what California is actually doing. And yes, we sort of, tout ourselves as, this environmental leader. And we're really seen like that, not just in the US, worldwide. I mean, the EU came here to see how we were doing, our carbon pricing and, carbon credits. And,
Sure.
Because it was, when we decided that we were going to deal with, carbon emissions from utility plants, it worked here. It worked better than what the EU was doing. But as far as the waste goes, so the crazy thing is, we've got these really, really strict laws. And the federal government came out with laws in the 70s, this is, what's the baseline of, for, toxic waste. And then we came out with more stringent laws in 92 when we had Governor Brown. Now, just 1 year before, Pete Wilson, as the governor, was signing a pact with other Western governors to say, hey, let's keep our toxic waste within states. Let's not export it to other states. But, as soon as we had these really stringent laws, we had way more toxic waste. And the truth is we need to clean it up. It's bad. We don't want people living near DDT. The Vernon community in LA County, they're right by the Exide battery recycling plant. That's super toxic. We need to protect those people. But, to do it at the expense of these other states that have less, they're just going by the federal, guidelines of what's toxic. And when we take it to Arizona and Utah, we're just putting it in it's just going into a regular municipal landfill.
No, they don't do anything special with it. And we're talking, as you mentioned, DDT. Also, I was reading the asbestos from homes going in, other toxic chemicals as well. And it's supposed to be in California handled one way. But in one case in the Southern California, they took it like 130 miles across the border and just dumped it in a regular dump. And this isn't the only case.
Yeah. Well, look, since 2010, we have taken 10 million tons to these, mainly these 2 sites. So the one up in Utah where, it's only 133 miles away. We're taking, shredded auto detritus, we're taking DDT, and the lengths that they're going to wash the trucks and clean them to get ready for them to actually leave to drive in a little bit of California before they cross the border, and the awful thing is, we have this state our own watchdog group, which is called the Department of Toxic Substances Control, the DTSC. They're one of the biggest out-of-state dumpers. They're busy overseeing and managing all these, environmental remediation projects. And meanwhile, they're busy taking all this stuff, to other states. And so the stuff that goes to Utah, it gets taken to this um, it's called La Paz County, and it's the Colorado River Indian tribe. Their reservation is exactly 5 miles away, as is the small town Parker City. And, there's not the kind of oversight that should be happening. So it's, terrible NIMBYism, not in our backyard, but hey, it's fine to take it over, the border and dump it in your backyard. I have to say one thing that's really, so Nevada and Oregon, they both have laxer toxic standards than California. But what they cleverly did was they said, oh, if it's too toxic for California, then it's too toxic for us. So they don't get the waste, but Utah and Arizona do. And there's one landfill that it goes to in southern Arizona, very close to the Mexican border. There's an organic date farm, like right over the fence, within 100 yards of this landfill. There's, our organic dates are being, grown. So it's, it's not good. And it really reminds me of what we've been doing for years, and not just the US, the whole world. When we were sending all our plastic to China for them to recycle, and we were turning parts of China that were these sort of bucolic rural areas into dystopic cesspits, because they were dealing with, just, tons and tons of our worst, cheapest plastic that they ended up burning because you couldn't recycle it, and you can only create waste that you can deal with locally. I mean, that's the thing we're learning from plastics. And I get what the problem with this is. All this toxic waste is, from bygone, industries and things. And now we're playing catch up with getting rid of it. And we are talking about, yes, we have to deal with it in California, but we're not actually making the effort to do that. We're still shipping it to these other states.
There's so much about this story that outrages me. I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead, because you haven't had a chance to chime in on this one.
I just wanted to ask a quick question about it. I mean, my understanding is that this whole recycling of plastics is pretty much a hoax.
Yes.
My son is a documentarian, and he's currently making a documentary on recycling and what a hoax much of it is, unfortunately, because we're so diligent in making sure we put everything in these bins. But there is, and tell me if I'm wrong, if my understanding is we shouldn't be using plastic, period, because there's no way to recycle it. It's not being used. Newspapers, yes. Cardboard, yes. But plastic is just not, there's no way to do it.
Yeah, well, recycling plastic is bogus. Yes, it's awful. And, when we were sending it to China, we would keep the onshore, on-site, American recyclers would take the very highest quality of the plastic waste that you could actually, and it's not recycling. So this is the thing, Jim, and this is probably what your son talks about. We downcycled it. You don't make it into an equivalent product. You downcycle it into a lesser product. But, when we sent it to China, I mean, I remember reading about workers holding on to a piece of plastic, Chinese workers, no protective clothing, no masks, no nothing. And they couldn't tell what the plastic was. And so what they would do, they would take a lighter and they would light the plastic, and as it was burning, they would smell it to work out what type of plastic it was and where it should go.
Oh,
and,
awful.
I mean, you burn plastic and you create dioxin, which is, the worst carcinogen, out there. And a lot of it just gets incinerated. And when China said no more foreign garbage, the Western world, which, we like to keep, our backyard clean, but we don't care about, sending it to, a developing country. We were pushing Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, all these other countries, in that region. We were saying, hey, we've got all this plastic waste. Would you like it? And they had seen what happened in China, and they said, no, thanks, Western countries. You keep that yourself. We really
I think some of it is still going to some of these developing countries. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this, but part of my son's documentary, which is not yet out but is being still done, is they use trackers. They put trackers in the recycling bins, and were able to track it where it was lining up. And within days, supposedly was in these recycling bins out by Target or one of these stores, and they tracked it, and it was going, number one, within a couple of days, right on to into a landfill, into landfills, with just like every other trash.
Then what's the
And
point?
secondly, yeah, there is no point to. And the second place was they were going on boats. They're still going on these ships to places like Malaysia. It's just it's a crime, and what we have to do, really, at least my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Belinda, is not use plastic. We just got to stop.
Yes, we need to really, really, really think and yes, try to curtail our plastic use. It's so difficult because so much stuff comes in it. I mean, I for a while was making my own yogurt because I was like, I just can't bear to be buying, yogurt that comes in plastic containers. But to avoid plastic, that takes a lot of work. I mean, I buy my milk in a glass bottle and I recycle that. What's the top made of? Plastic. So yes, we do need to be curtailing it. But here's the thing, Jim, this is not about us as the consumers. Unilever, Coca-Cola, they are absolutely aware of where their plastic is ending up and how many billions of bottles, plastic bottles is it that Coca-Cola is producing every year. And here's the thing, I've mentioned this on the show before, EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. Coca-Cola, Nestle, all these companies that sell, water in a bottle, that's ridiculous. We have water in our taps. You don't need water in a bottle that, by the way, is less regulated than your tap water. But their responsibility ends as soon as that bottle of water goes across the counter and you pay the money. All they take is profit, and they don't have to do anything about the recycling. So, and then it's up to municipalities and us as the taxpayer. We pay for recycling. But if you start making these big corporations who are just, banking all this money, if you make the recycling part of their responsibility, which it absolutely should be, we all know the plastic is ending up in landfills, it's ending up in oceans. I mean, one of the things when you go to Indonesia, you're on these beautiful islands. I was there a couple of years ago, actually, about the plastic pollution crisis. And, here you are, you're on the Flores Island where the Komodo dragons are. I was reading about it the other day. The New York Times was saying, you've got to go here. It's amazing, see these Komodo dragons. And it is. But what happens is you get off the boat and the beach is covered in plastic.
No.
And these are countries that don't have a robust waste management system like we do. But the other day, I was down at El Segundo. There was plastic all over the beach. There's more than we can deal with, as your son's documentary, is showing you, and via him. We absolutely have to cut down on it. The problem is right now, plastics manufacturing is going in the other direction. They're getting ready to make more and more and more of the stuff. So we have to push our governments, push our elected officials, and say, hey, charge Nestle and charge, Coca-Cola. Stop making us pay for it.
It's interesting because we had a comment from Randy who doesn't think it's possible, who says, sure, let's just ban plastic use in all products, like that's going to work out. Is there a world where we can do without plastic? Are we so reliant on it now that it's, we're stuck with it? Like we're going to just use it because it's easy and convenient and cheap without regard to the environment?
Well, look, the thing is, as we've talked about, on the show before, we're ingesting our own plastic waste now. It's in, designer beers, it's in our salt, it's found in our feces. I mean, it's found in babies. It's crazy, that we're, consuming our own waste. And the thing about plastic is that, say for medical equipment, I don't see, sort of a viable alternative. But one of the things that, plastics, reduction, activists talk about is it's not, so you have to have extended producer responsibility, but you also have to be manufacturing plastic that is 100% recyclable. So actually better quality plastic so that it actually can be a circular production loop that, it goes into use, it's used, and then it's able to be recycled into another plastic object of equal value. And that means not producing, this, how sometimes now those water bottles you can just crush them in your hand. They're so flimsy. But what all conservationists talk about is this circular economy. It's been linear so far. It's extraction, manufacturing, consumption, and then you just throw the product away at the end. Like if you look at something like aluminium, I think it's 70% of all the aluminium mined and turned into a can or whatever is still in use because it's 100% recyclable, like glass. So I don't think we can go to a world where we use only glass and only aluminium. But with a company like Seventh Generation, that talks about how we're preserving the world for the seventh generation. Okay, so you've got a great big bottle of laundry detergent. I should better take that into whatever store I got that laundry detergent from, and there should be a big container of it, and I should better refill my container. Yeah. And the refilling thing, that also takes time. Like, Jim, there are people, and I don't know if your son interviewed them, but, there's this family who live up in Northern California, and they don't use any plastic, but she spends all day shopping, because she takes wax paper to get her cheese put in. And, they're really making this concerted effort. But what they're showing you is it's sort of, it's going back to, how our great grandparents did it. And it's really time consuming if you want to avoid it.
Well, there are some, and I think it, go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to point out, so to what you're saying, one of our viewers here, Randy, is saying to me, Jim, you go first, throw out everything you're in your home that's plastic. Well, it isn't an all or nothing situation. You can affect these companies. I believe, this is my belief.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to totally shut down, but if you cut back on buying the products that are packaged in plastic, I do, Randy, I do, when I go to the store, I do my best. I don't buy any bottled water that's in plastic. I don't buy, that's a huge thing. I don't buy soft drinks or anything like that that's in plastic. Can I avoid it totally? No, you can't.
Right.
But you can cut back. And even if you don't shut them out totally, a percentage decrease is going to hurt those companies, and they're going to send a message. So don't give up. I guess is what I'm saying.
I was just going to say that my husband, who makes the kids' lunches in the morning, has changed now from putting the sandwiches in plastic baggies to wrapping them in wax paper. That's something so easy to do. And like you said, Jim, we're not going to get rid of it, but we can limit it. Right. So, just taking steps to do a couple things to limit it is better. And it's funny, Belinda, I always think when I'm doing the dishes in the evening, and avoiding, I have things that stay in the sink to hand wash, all the plastic stuff, right? And things that go in the dishwasher. And I always wonder if you can tell people who get it, who know that plastic is toxic at those higher temperatures, who take steps to avoid that, by the people that put plastic in the dishwasher versus the people who don't.
Sorry, what do you mean? Like that you have an awareness that plastic is toxic when it's hot?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, think about, putting, food that's in hot plastic and then eating it. And, you shouldn't put oil into plastic because oil, interacts with the plastic and creates, estrogenic chemicals. So, bad for men. Never buy oil that's in, a plastic bottle if you want your, the men around you to remain, vital and, virile.
Virile, yes.
Yeah. It's,
You hear that, Jim?
Yeah, Jim, no olive oil, no oil and plastic. But when I go to the supermarket, I don't use any plastic bags. I mean, I put all my produce just into the cart, and I pick it up and I put it onto the conveyor belt, when I'm paying at the the register. And I had a guy once go, "Oh my God, look at your cart." And he pulled his girlfriend over to have a look. And he said, "Look at how she's shopping, no plastic bags." And I've had people look at my cart and go, "Oh, it's so beautiful," because it's an array of, fruit and vegetables. And his girlfriend took one look at it and said, "Oh, I'd never do that." She just wasn't interested. And the other thing, when people call me up and say, "What can I use as an alternative to plastic bags?" I always say, "Well, don't you have a lot of plastic bags already in your house? Does your bread come in a plastic bag? Reuse that bag. Reuse that bag as many times as you possibly can. Take it back to the grocer." But here's the thing, guys. This is great on a personal, level, and we should be aware as consumers, but we really have to push for legislation because it has to be bigger than us. And we have got fantastic legislation happening in California. They're about to ban polystyrene, which is unrecyclable. And polystyrene, by the way, is not just the big white foamy stuff that your packages arrive in. It's also those Solo cups, those red Solo cups that everyone uses for those are polystyrene. So those are completely unrecyclable. And Ben Allen, thank you Ben Allen, who's super aware about the plastic crisis. He has got this legislation, and we are going to, I can't remember what year it's taking effect, but there's going to be no more polystyrene in California. And this is the direction we need to be going, because we may be taking our toxic waste to other states, but one of the other things that we're exporting are better environmental practices, and one of them is definitely around our plastic use. And I see we're totally out of time.
I know. I just saw that. The show is over. This is it. Belinda Waymouth, I could talk to you all day and listen to you say aluminium over and over again. Thank you so much for being with us on the Mark Thompson Show and for talking about the environment, something we need to think about. I'll see you again next week. I look forward to it.
Yeah, see you then. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Jim Avila, we have a couple people to thank before.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.